Now it's time for your quiz. Let's test how much you understood from the story. Remember, answer out loud, and you have 5 seconds to respond after each question. Ready? Let's go. Why was Mr. Evans late and wet when he arrived at school? Mr. Evans was late and soaking wet because his car wouldn't start that morning, so he had to take a bus and walk in the pouring rain, arriving to school cold, wet, and exhausted. What happened to his lesson plan and coffee? His coffee spilled inside his bag and soaked through all of his materials, including the lesson plan he had prepared, making it nearly unusable. How did the students behave when Mr. Evans entered the classroom? Most of the students ignored him completely. Some were talking loudly, others were on their phones, one was asleep, and some were eating or walking around the room. What poem was he trying to teach, and what was it about? He was trying to teach the poem If by Rudyard Kipling, which talks about staying calm and strong during difficult times, even when everything seems to be falling apart. What did Tyler say that really upset Mr. Evans? Tyler interrupted the class and said sarcastically, "You're not my dad," showing complete disrespect and challenging Mr. Evans' authority in front of the whole class. What did the students do while Mr. Evans sat silently at his desk? Most students whispered, laughed, and ignored him. A few were confused, but no one truly paid attention. They were more entertained by the chaos than concerned for their teacher. What did Mr. Evans do after the bell rang? He left the classroom without saying anything, took a resignation letter from his locker, and delivered it to the principal without hesitation. How did Mr. Evans explain his decision to the principal? He explained that he felt like he wasn't teaching anymore, just babysitting teenagers who didn't want to learn, and that he had nothing left to give after trying so hard for so long. Did he decide to take a break or to quit completely? He decided to quit completely. He didn't need more time to think. His mind was already made up. He was done with teaching at that school. What was the final image of Mr. Evans in the story? The final image was of Mr. Evans walking out into the rain without an umbrella, letting the water fall on him as a quiet moment of closure, sadness, and peace. Great job. Even if you didn't get all the answers, remember, the goal is to practice speaking and listening. Now let's go over some vocabulary from today's story. Let's take a closer look at some key words and expressions from the story. Resignation letter. A formal note someone writes to quit a job. For example, she gave her resignation letter to the manager yesterday. Soaked, completely wet. For example, my clothes were soaked after walking in the rain without an umbrella. Mocked. To make fun of someone, usually in a disrespectful way. For example, the student mocked the teacher's voice and made everyone laugh. Smirked. A small, arrogant smile. For example, he smirked when he got away with breaking the rule. Babysitting. Watching over someone without really teaching or guiding. For example, instead of learning, the class felt more like babysitting loud children. Stared ahead. Looking forward without focus, often showing deep thought or shock. For example, he stared ahead, lost in his thoughts. Bell rang. The sound that ends a class in school. For example, as soon as the bell rang, the students left the classroom. Chaos. Complete confusion or lack of order. For example, there was chaos when the fire alarm went off. Push through. To keep going even when things are hard. For example, she pushed through her fears and gave a great presentation. Turned and walked out. A phrase meaning someone left a place decisively. For example, after the argument, she turned and walked out without saying a word. Thank you so much for watching this video until the end. You are doing something amazing by learning English with stories. If you enjoyed this lesson, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends so more people can enjoy these stories and learn English the easy way. This is Docentes DigitalesTV, where you learn to speak English fast, easy, and with confidence. See you in the next video. Now, it's time for your quiz. Let's test how much you understood from the story. Remember, answer out loud, and you have 5 seconds to respond after each question. Ready? Let's go. Why was Ms. Taylor excited about the lesson that day? Ms. Taylor was excited because she had planned a fun and interactive group activity about ecosystems and had prepared colorful worksheets and stickers for her students. How did the class behave at the beginning of the lesson? The students were happy, full of energy, and participated joyfully in a short quiz, laughing and enjoying the silly points Ms. Taylor gave them. Who entered the classroom unexpectedly? The mother of one of Ms. Taylor's students, Ethan, entered the classroom without knocking, looking angry and holding her phone. What was the parent upset about? The parent believed Ms. Taylor had embarrassed her son, Ethan, by correcting his answer in class the day before, which she claimed had made him cry. How did Ms. Taylor respond when the parent started yelling? Ms. Taylor tried to remain calm and asked the parent to speak in private after class, explaining that she corrected Ethan kindly and meant no harm. What did the parent do after being asked to leave the classroom? The parent continued yelling, accused Ms. Taylor of being unprofessional, and only left the classroom when the principal arrived and insisted she leave. How did the students react to the situation? The students were shocked, confused, and uncomfortable. Some looked down, others whispered, and many didn't know how to react. What did the principal do to help Ms. Taylor and the students? The principal calmly asked the parent to leave and then told the class to take a short break outside so Ms. Taylor could regain her composure. What did Ms. Taylor think about that evening? She thought about the difficulty of teaching and the emotional pressure teachers face, wondering how she could continue if more situations like this happened. What changed her perspective the next morning? She received an anonymous note from a student thanking her for being supportive, reminding her of the real reason she teaches, to help and guide her students. Great job! Even if you didn't get all the answers, remember, the goal is to practice speaking and listening. Now let's go over some vocabulary from today's story. Let's take a closer look at some key words and expressions from the story. Yelled. To shout loudly, often because of anger. For example, the coach yelled at the players to run faster. Embarrass. To make someone feel ashamed or uncomfortable. For example, he was embarrassed when everyone laughed at his mistake. Unprofessional. Acting in a way that is not appropriate for a job or role. For example, it's unprofessional to argue with customers in public. Stunned. Shocked and surprised, sometimes speechless. For example, she was stunned when she heard the news. Tremble. To shake slightly, often from fear or nervousness. For example, his hands trembled during the interview. Stormed out. To leave angrily and suddenly. For example, she stormed out of the room after the argument. Take a deep breath. A calming action used to control emotions. For example, he took a deep breath before answering the difficult question. Mail. A letter or message received at home. For example, She found a kind note in her mailbox after a hard day. No name. When something is anonymous and you don't know who sent it. For example, he received a gift with no name on the card. Composure. Calmness and self-control in a stressful situation. For example, she kept her composure even when she was insulted. Thank you so much for watching this video until the end. You are doing something amazing by learning English with stories. If you enjoyed this lesson, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends, so more people can enjoy these stories and learn English the easy way. This is Docentes DigitalesTV, where you learn to speak English fast, easy, and with confidence. See you in the next video.